You're in the Zoom meeting one hand. Okay, say hi.
Hi.
Hey, I see you.
See you. Oh my gosh, I love that you're doing it from your studio. It looks so cool.
Yeah, I was trying to get an angle where they could see a little bit, a little backdrop and stuff.
Very cool. Okay, I'm gonna get out. I don't want to be in the shot.
You're already in the shot.
All right, David, take care.
I think we're live now. Okay, we're live. I'm going to do one little thing here. We're going to share a screen and play a little something. So give me 2 minutes, and you'll see a little something on the screen that that might recollect some memories. So give me a second, and we're going to try this out.
Okay.
The weekend's gone and it's not the same, 'cause Monday's off, so damn Monday. Wish I had something to do tonight. Well, what once felt wrong now feels so right. Watching indie films on a Monday night with my friends while I intellectualize. Thank God that it's Monday. Thank God that it's Monday. Thank God that it's Monday, yeah. Thank God that it's Monday. Will I love it? Will I hate it? Will I watch it and debate it? Those critics with their goofy eyes. Will they make me laugh and they make me cry? Some so bad that I wanna die, but instead I pass the mic and I intellectualize. Thank God that it's Monday. Thank God that it's Monday. Thank God that it's Monday, yeah. Thank God that it's Monday.
All right. Welcome to TGIM. Thank God it's Monday. Film Club, the Fort Myers Film Festival. We have as a very special guest tonight. Marcus Jansen is an internationally acclaimed painter with studios based in the Bronx, New York, and Fort Myers, Florida. Over the last 25 years, Jansen has pioneered the introduction of raw, concentrated sense of immediate reality in his often social critical and politically charged landscape works. He is arguably seen as the best American artist since Rauschenberg. I would go for even further, but first influenced by gestures of the 1980s graffiti movement, his film Painter's Allegory, Marcus Jansen, Examine and Report, played at the Fort Myers Film Festival. We are very honored to have the coolest American artist in the world right now. It is Marcus Jansen. Welcome, Marcus Jansen. How are you doing tonight?
How are you, Eric? Good to see you, man. Good to see you.
It's honest to see. Look at that smile.
And we get to talk. We get to talk for a while, right?
Well, I noticed that. It's kind of like I would say most busy professionals, which I don't think it's unfair to categorize us as, often need a justification to utilize some time. And since this is somewhat business oriented, we can actually talk and still manage to do our work. I don't know.
Right. No, we're gonna do both. We're gonna have fun.
Well, you are fun and you're looking good. TGIM, Fort Myers Film Festival, we obviously are postponed May 6th to 10th. Yeah. Our festival was scheduled, and so we have 70 films slated to go. Once we get kind of everything rolling, we're out of the goodness of kind of our heart and the need to stay safe. We haven't set our dates yet this year, but we do plan on doing that. And TGIM is usually a lead up into some of the taking a look at films and having our film goers decide whether or not these are good films for the festival. And tonight we've been taking Mondays to kind of spend almost like a film club talking about films and getting to know filmmakers and people who are important in artistic filmmaking community. I feel like already I spoke too much, and if at any point I kind of go down the road of something that you'd rather talk about something else, I'm way more interested in anything you have to say.
No, you're good to go, Eric. And I'm really happy to hear that you're going to continue that the film festival. When is that supposed to happen? Soon, or?
Well, you know how it goes. We had been under lockdown, and on top of that, there's kind of a concern of having large crowds. And we decided that people would have more fun drinking, watching films, and having a red carpet gala with the thought of that they're doing it safely. So
yeah, I think we'll have to be a little patient.
A lot of film festivals have canceled altogether. We have not. We do plan on having it at some point. So there's been some discussion of July. Of course, it's a very hot month of July in Florida. So there's also been discussion about August, even September. But believe me.
Well, it sounds good that you're continuing it.
Thank you. We'll let. I would love to have you come out to our opening night film, which hasn't been announced yet. But for those who do want to know what films are playing, find us on filmfestival.com. Now, listen, it's interesting because I've known you for a while, and for those who know you, they also know the brilliance with which you as a painter have been recognized, and just keeping up with what you're doing. I know I have to. I know I have an email coming from Unit A and from you, and I follow you on Instagram and through the Facebook and through Twitter, just to know all that you're doing.
Right.
And I don't know if you want to start here or if you don't want to, but I know you have a big show coming up in September. Do you want to talk about that first, or do you want to give
Yeah, I mean, sure, anything you want. I mean, we have my first U.S. solo museum show is coming up in Winter Park in Orlando, or by Orlando, which is coming up in September. This has been in the making for over a year. The curator is Dr. Gisela Carbonell, who used to be at the Baker Museum here in Naples. And yeah, I'm really excited about this show because, first of all, it's a very timely show. There's a lot to do with what's sort of happening in the world today. As you know, I've been documenting and sort of responding to world events and global events for some time, almost 25 years. And so I think with all the stuff that's going on now, it's just a really good time to have that show. That's going to be September 8th until January 3rd next year. So that's coming up pretty soon. So we're getting ready for that. The promotion is already starting.
Where is that at? I hate to interject and interrupt, but where is it at, and where can I find information?
That's at the Cornell Fine Arts Museum at Rollins College, and that's in Winter Park by Orlando. Some of you guys might know it, but it's a great museum space. We have 2 spaces, full spaces. So we're really privileged to get that much space to show that many works. And of course, I'll be there and everything. We're just excited about it because we actually had a show at the Baker Museum in Naples scheduled during Irma, and that was canceled because of the Irma show, because of the Irma hurricane. And so we're hoping that this wasn't going to be canceled. So far, so good.
Good. And September 8th is my birthday, so I'm making a point I'm going to head up there.
When's your birthday?
I said September 8th, so I'll be there.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, then we got to do it.
Outside of that, you've also opened up. We know that you are at Fort Myers. You have a Unit A here on MLK. We love that's. I'm just guessing that's where you're coming to us live from now. Although I don't want to give away your quarantine location, but that looks like it looks like your studio. And I can't tell if it's your Fort Myers or your New York studio, but
no, this is the Fort Myers studio in downtown. As you know, I'm right on MLK and Evans in downtown Fort Myers. And, we do open shows, but I work from here largely. And we have a second studio that we opened up in the South Bronx last year in October, which I do New York projects and so forth. And I just came back from there in February, March. And that was right around the time when COVID hit. So I came down and started working here. I was supposed to get ready for a show at Richard Beavis Gallery in Brooklyn, New York, and that was canceled because of the COVID situation. So came down here, and so I've been working here, and I'm getting ready for a couple of projects, but mostly getting ready for the museum show coming up.
I have 4,000 questions, all of which I'm sure we could talk for long periods of time. Being under the quarantine, a lot of people who are creative find that the quarantine doesn't upset them so much because they're used to doing very creative works by themselves anyway. Can you talk a little bit how the quarantine has affected your creative, and maybe what kind of inspiration you're getting through what we're going through today?
Well, I mean, initially when COVID started, I have to say, for us as artists, we always work in isolation anyway, right? So, my general life is from the house to the studio back to the house, maybe I drop off the kids, but that's pretty much it. So for us, or at least for me, my life hasn't really changed that much in terms of, working in isolation. I guess motivation has just been, what's going on, all these new inspirations, what the world is going to do, where we are now, where we're going to take the world from here. I mean, this is a great opportunity, even though there's a lot of bad things that are happening to many people. It's a great opportunity as well, and I think it's important for us to realize that this is the time, if we want to mold and sort of create this next generation as to how we want it, not just oligarchs and elites in Washington. This is the time to do it. And so I hope that kind of resonates with people. It's before you feel, after a cold, before you feel well, you got to go through pain. And this is our pain period, and it's just, but I think after that we'll be much stronger.
Very good. And there's a quote from you from the Marcus Jansen Examiner report. The film was an official selection by John Schooler for the 2016 Film Festival, Fort Myers Film Festival. In fact, we opened with it, and now I see it's on Amazon, and people can screen it on Amazon. So I encourage everyone to take a look at it. It's an amazing piece, and it kind of gets you. Not only does it tell the story of Marcus and his getting to where he's at now, from being a veteran, from starting off in New York on Prince Street, but on the cover, a lot of what I see is a quote, and I believe I'm attributing it to you, that art is the most intimate act of war. Is that something that you said, and or do you care to explain at all how you feel about why art's importance when it comes to socially relevant and globally relevant issues?
Well, I started, my background a little bit. I started, my roots are in New York City. I was born in New York City. We lived in the South Bronx, so the South Bronx was my first impressions in life as I grew up. We then lived in Queens and went to Germany, and I kept on going back and forth between Germany and New York City, usually, during my life. And during that time, in the 1980s, as you know, there was a graffiti art movement that emerged in New York City, and it was really, I would say, the art movement that really sort of cultivated what we see now and much of what we see in art today. That was a very politically and socially relevant movement, but it was also, we were social critics. It had to do with social expression, besides the fact of getting your name out there and being known. So I've always been social in the work and always been critical in the work, and that was just part of my genre and part of my history as I came along. The military came, of course, that was an addition. I joined the military, of course. Oops, sorry about that. You still hear me? See me? Okay. Yeah. Then I joined the military later, of course. It was the Gulf War. I was immediately deployed after basic training, which got me into a Gulf War therapy program, which actually got me into the art program for Gulf War therapy. And that's what really gave me the idea of, this is something you could possibly do for a living. So I really translated, some of the things that I already had going into being socially relevant with the work and creating a body of work that had to do with history, art history, world history, but also in a contemporary context.
Your film, as I watch your film, I watched it again today, and I've seen it a bunch of times, as you know. I not only is the storytelling, but we also see a lot of your works in there. These are works that have been sold everywhere. In fact, I remember years ago, and we don't have to go too far back, but over a decade, maybe 15, 20 years ago, I should have bought more of your paintings, as I see that. I think everyone feels that way.
But you do have a few, right?
I do have a few. I'm lucky. I'm looking to buy my next one. I want to see what you're coming out next, and I'm always in. I wish I could just, have my whole household, and one day that's my goal. But having said that, in this film, not only does it show your pieces, which in of its own, if you don't own a piece, if you don't own a Marcus Jansen, you see this film and you're seeing not just your work, but how you kind of come to it. And in it, I thought it was something very interesting. You also draw kind of a distinction between documenting something and propaganda. And is this something you feel like discussing a little when it comes to art and its importance of the distinction of the two?
Well, I don't think there's, generally speaking, I don't think there's any particular rule for what art should be. I mean, I think, this is a very free medium, and I think it needs to stay free. I think if anything, we need to make sure that it stays free. Even if it's upsetting and sort of uncomfortable, I always think, good art should be uncomfortable because it usually shows you something that you're not familiar with, or, gets you thinking about something you didn't think before. That's going to make you uncomfortable. So, I think that's one of the most important parts of it. Painting is the intimate act of war really came I want to say more from my own inner struggle. After the Gulf War, when I came back, and the transitions that I had to make to painting, and this idea of sort of intellectual and visual combat as I'm painting. So this is a sort of my way of combating and expressing at the same time. But again, painting's always been, go back to the graffiti art time, always been sort of a social critique. So I've always seen it as a positive outlet and positive way of going to war, sometimes with oneself, but also in terms of the social messaging.
And when I hear you say that, I often think about that sometimes what art can do, which war can't, is move you to think and have a kind of a critical analysis. Is that fair to say? And how important is that to you?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, in my case, like I said, I was in art therapy programs initially, and it's during those art therapy programs that I really came to realize, this is something that you could actually do, not just from an expressive standpoint, but also you could tell a story, right? And my paintings, I would say, at large, tell a story of where we are today. I think, a few years back, you're looking back, you're going to be able to see, but they're also, in some ways, I think, universals. In other words, you could really relate them to almost any time in history, because we repeat ourselves, unfortunately, over and over.
How many people do you think are getting the message? And I say that with respect to the very high level of intellectualism and the very sophisticated art that you do. I think it's just fair to ask. I mean, how many people are getting the message? How many people say it's obvious? Maybe percentage. How many people say it's obvious what your message is? How many have to think about it? And how many are not getting it? Do you think about that ever? Or
well,
is it...
I'm hoping the message is what you get out of it. I mean, first of all, I mean, my works don't have any particular message that I'm hammering down people's throats. So this is really more. They're more gestural works. I would describe them as gestural works that get people to start asking questions. I mean, because really my paintings are nothing but my own questions in terms of, where we are today and, where we're going and so forth. So depending on your psyche and your intellect that you bring to the painting, you're going to get a response, and you're going to be able to interpret it in your own way based on your own intellectual and experiences that you bring to it.
Very cool. We sometimes open it up to some video questions. I'm going to let Lane in. She's got a question, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
See if the technology works here. We'll see if she's available to ask her question. We'll see if we can, we'll give her a chance to see if her video is starting. Hey, Lane, you're here with Marcus Jansen. I don't know if you can hear us. Are you there?
Yep. Hi.
Okay, you got a question for Marcus.
Hi, Lane.
Hi, Marcus.
How are you?
My question is, I know you use the gas mask imagery in a lot of your work, or at least you did. And I wondered if there was any new context coming up for you with regard to either the pandemic or the protests.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic because first of all, that painting that you're referring to, the creeping obstacles on Kansas, I did 10 years ago exactly today. I mean, literally, this month or last month. And, as I said before, I've been sort of watching this decline, this economic decline that we've been in this country, but also, obviously globally, but in particular here in the US, since I'm working for here, I sort of respond to what's happening here. And I guess that was a warning sign for me back then, to sort of set, a sense of emergency and a sense of imminency that we need to somehow pay attention to what's happening. This is 10 years ago now. So, looking at the painting now, it's eerie because that's exactly where we are, even the mask. So, yeah, it's pretty eerie. But, sometimes I find with artists, I mean, especially with myself, I can paint something and then, a couple of weeks later, I'll see something that is similar to what I painted. And it's really, eerie sometimes.
No, I guess nothing is quite similar to what you do. Thank you, Lane, for popping in. We're gonna close you off for just a little bit. It's interesting because sometimes I've noticed this recently. You see a song sometimes that you heard when you were younger, and then the song comes back after the pandemic, and suddenly you're like, you're hearing the words differently. And that's kind of what I'm hearing, what you had to say about art, what it meant to you and to the viewer 10 years ago means really a lot more now. Is there anything that's like eternal when it comes to messaging, when it comes to art? Is there anything that will last, or does it all last eternally, in your opinion, as to the messages that people get from art?
Well, I think great art is timeless art, right? And that's art that you can sort of, no matter what time frame or how many years will pass, that you can look at and still get something out of. So for me, I hope that my work is timeless, and that it sets a tone that no matter what year we're going to be in, that you could look at and somehow, not only get something out of, but also identify in terms of what's going on in the world somewhere.
Cool. Since this is TGIM, I'm going to ask you a little bit about what you're watching right now. Everyone's kind of quarantined. I don't know if maybe you're not watching anything at all, and your answer probably will be you're just watching yourself paint.
Right.
But are you watching it? Are you watching anything? Is there anything you can recommend?
I did watch a film that was I can't remember. Let me see. What was the name of it? First They Killed My Father, by Angelina Jolie. I don't know if you're familiar with that film. She did a few years ago. I saw it on Netflix.
But take note of that.
Yeah, it's really it's a war film about Vietnam, but it's through a child's eyes. And I thought she did a really good job with it. She was a director of the film. I don't know if she's a producer, but a director. And I just really appreciate it because it looked at war. War is one of my topics too in my paintings, and critique of war, military-industrial complex. Really runs most aspects of the country now, and how we go to war and what war really does to our environments and so forth. If you look at my paintings, and that's pretty much the commentary that you'll get. But I thought it was a great film. Check it out.
It reminds me, one of the films that we'll be looking at, I run a little column in Florida Weekly every week on fresh things to stream. One thing that's coming out on Netflix is Spike Lee's latest film. It's called The Five Bloods, and it's about
Five Bloods.
I don't know if you've
Looking
heard about
forward
it.
to it.
So five African Americans who fought together in Vietnam come back to the United States to the less than overwhelming United folks welcoming them back, and they then decide that they're going to go back to Vietnam to find some gold that they had left behind and buried. And I bring it up a little bit just because I know I've seen some photos. I know that I believe that you've met Spike Lee. I feel like he's a fan. Does he have some of your art, or does he have your book? Or
he has my book. I never met him in person, but I actually had I was commissioned by Ford Motor Company in 2003, and I was flown out there. Ford Motor Company showed me their entire plants, took me around. It was really great. And Spike came the week later, but it was right around the time when Elias was born, my oldest son, and I couldn't fly out to meet him, unfortunately. So my book, since I was a Centennial artist that was commissioned, was given to Spike, and this was in 2000. This was in 2003. So I have some photos of Spike with the book, and I haven't. I would love to get in touch with him and actually have met him, but it just wasn't possible that particular year.
Well, he needs to have some of. He needs to buy a couple of Marcus Jansen paintings.
He should.
I think it's going to happen. Right. Like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of. I don't know what you want. I'm not sure what you want to talk about. I mean, part of me wants to ask the biggest question that I feel like I've asked you this before, but as being the type of artist that you are, I get a sense, and others who are respected in the arts community, that when we look at your artwork for our generation, you are preeminent as far as American painter goes, if not globally. And I start to think about if we could take a time machine to 2100, be the planet still here, and people are spending $80 million on your paintings, and I'm not being silly. I'm being serious now. Does that bother you that you're not going to see any of that money?
Listen, Eric, I tell you, we had a conversation about that the other day at home, and first of all, my intentions of being an artist was never about money. And anybody that has that intention being an artist is either a fool or naive, because there's usually, no money in this business. I consider myself very, very lucky You know, we worked very, very hard over the years. I had a lot of support, and I was a workaholic. You know, so this was really a do or die situation for me to, you know, paint and simply just express myself based on what I really loved and had a passion to do. And I just happened to take it all the way. And much of it, to be honest, was out of a necessity. I mean, I didn't know what else to do. You know, I got out the service. I could have maybe, you know, become a cop or do something like that. That usually is the case. But, you know, for me, this was the only thing I had left to do. I went to art school before, so I fell back on that. And, you know, just really just work my ass off for you know, 25 years. And basically, and I didn't care if I was going to get paid, you know, $100 a painting for the rest of my life. You know, I was able to pay the bills, and I never had a problem with that. And for me, that was enough.
It makes me want to kind of go the direction for the conversation of I feel as if art has been a healing to you. It's been a joy to you. And I want to know, is there anything that compares to creating that brings you that kind of satisfaction, if anything, if you care to talk about that? No,
not really. I mean, art has saved my life. I would go further. I mean, there's no question. I mean, art's been not just therapeutic, but it saved my life on multiple occasions. I mean, I think it's, you know, we talked about the other day, I had a conversation here with Sabrina. You know, we talked about how important it is to find your purpose, right? And your purpose is usually in something that you really love or are passionate about. I just was lucky to find that very early on. I had my first exhibition when I was 6 years old in Queens. I went overseas. I was exposed to Europe at an early age. I was very fortunate about that. They taught me about the German masters and so forth. And it just kind of stayed with me, you know, the graffiti scene and so forth. I never thought I could make money off of it. I never thought that I was going to be showing in museums or anything like that at any point in time. But that just sort of happened because I was really working all the time. I mean, I didn't do anything else. I mean, you have to picture, while everybody else was partying, I was usually painting or working. So for the last 25 years, I mean, I'm 52 now, that's all I've been doing, you know? So I guess eventually, you know, something kind of happens, right? Because you just, you know, that's all you do.
Well, you know, we every time I'm with you, I get a sense that I think we need a sleepover party so we can kind of talk about all the things we're going to talk about. We usually try to, I know, about a half an hour. Part of me wants to make sure you get out there where to come see you at your art gallery, but part of me wants to also kind of give you a platform to anything I've not asked that you want to, you know, encourage, what you tell others to encourage them in the situation that's going on, situations that are going on now, and or with regards to art and the importance of it, you know.
I think in regards to what's happening now with COVID and with the protests and so forth, I think people, especially, and I'm going to refer this also directly to those that are from the Black and brown communities, that understand that this is an opportunity, not just a hardship, but an opportunity to demand from our leadership, all the way from Trump on down, and that means on both sides of the parties, to demand what is needed so that this doesn't happen again. And that starts with, obviously, police precincts, but besides that, our general economic democracy needs to come back. And we don't have that anymore. You know, we live in a place, you know, according to, you know, if you look at Princeton University's study where they talk about us being an oligarchy, you know, if that's the case, then there's no question that these things are going to happen, and they're going to continue to happen because there's a certain part of the population that simply just doesn't have the basic needs. And I think, you know, this needs to be really considered during this time, because this is, again, there's a lot of bad things happening, but it's also an opportunity to get new things going. And, you know, again, my work happened to document a lot of the things that are now playing out in real life. And that's why I just feel the urgency even more. And I speak from partially experience and partially what I've observed, just simply doing what I'm doing.
Well, then maybe lastly, I know where can we best keep up with you if we want to grab a painting and or see your next art show? Where will you have updates? Please tell us.
Well, I mean, the best is, you know, probably my website is marcusjansen.com.
Gonna type that in.
I usually have, you know, marcusjansen.com, MARCUSJANSEN.com.
Yep.
I mean, that's usually where, you'll find all my updates and what's going on and so forth. We have, galleries now in my Florida gallery here is Burgess Contemporary in Fort Lauderdale. My New York gallery is Richard Beavers is very important. He's doing a lot of things with us in Brooklyn, New York, and Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. We have a German show coming up, right? A German show that's really ongoing now with L.A. Kellerman in Düsseldorf, Germany, for my German fans out there that would like to go see something in Germany. We have, there's a lot of stuff going on right now in this process leading up to the museum show that's going to be in September. And like I said, I'm really excited about that because we've been set back with museum shows because of all these disasters that have been happening. Things have been canceled. But I think this particular show is just timely. You're going to see a lot of reflection over what I've covered over the last 25 years, and I'm hoping that there's going to be a lot of discussions around that at Cornell Fine Arts Museum.
Well, this is where I'm going to try not to gush too much, but I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of TGIM and Fort Myers Film Festival. Your support. Go watch Marcus Jensen Exam Report. Go check it out on marcusjensen.com.
And let me give another shout out to one of my favorite people, and that's John Skolar, the filmmaker. And I just want to say, just let me throw in, what a superb job he did with that film. For somebody that wasn't part of the business, wasn't part of the art industry. I mean, he really came in from nothing and examined and reported. And that's what he did. So great job.
I'm a big fan, and if you have Amazon Prime, you might be able to watch it for free. If not, rent it or purchase it. Support local, support John Schooler. I do think I love you, Marcus, and your family.
Same here, Eric.
And I want to see you. I want to see you just stay healthy and through all this. And thank you. It's a real honor just to spend this time with you. And the very next time we can spend even more time, be it on air or down at an open facility restaurant of lunch, please let me know. And let us know what you're doing. We'll let everyone know at Fort Myers Film Festival. Thank you so much, and much love to you, Marcus. Appreciate you being a part of it.
See ya.
Guys, everybody, be safe out there.
Care.
At TGIM, Fort Myers Film Festival. Every Monday night, we do Film Club from 7 to 7:30 here at FortMyersFilmFestival.com and for Facebook.com, Fort Myers Film Festival. Good night, everybody. Thanks, Marcus. I love you. See you later.
See ya.